The standing orders that you and I and the late Godana and the late Oboja drafted have been amended several times to where they are today, and you can amend them as you wish. Now let me, honorable members, allow a few members to make comments, then we go to some other business. I'll start with the Honorable Opio and I. Each member has 3 minutes.
The Honorable Speaker.
3 minutes.
Is it? Huh? I thought we agreed 10 minutes.
Majority and minority, I'll give you 5 each. Each member 3 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, I think we should be a little bit more patient on this matter, Honorable Speaker, because this is a very, very important matter. Honorable Speaker, this is the first time this House, since 2010, is dealing with a motion for the impeachment of a cabinet secretary. It is the first time we are dealing with such a situation, Honorable Speaker. And therefore I want to plead with you that you give us a little bit more time. Honorable Speaker, I want to start from where Honorable Kelo left, very, very quickly. Honorable Speaker, I don't think it was the intention of the framers of our Constitution, 2010, that a decision of this House would be countermanded by a group of 7 people. Honorable Speaker, when we took a vote on this matter last Thursday, a whole 149 members of this House voted overwhelmingly to impeach Cabinet Secretary Linturi. It was not the intention, I submit, of the framers of the Constitution when they enacted Article 152, Sub-Article 9, read together with Standing Order 66(7), Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, and I'm sure you know, you can teach us better. There is a danger in this idea of literally interpreting the law. I'm sure you know better than me of the Berryman case of 1946. Honorable Speaker, a purposive interpretation of the law would actually lead us to the conclusion that the decision of that select committee should have been subjected to validation of the whole House. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, there's a higher moral responsibility, Honorable Speaker, on the part of the Cabinet Secretary and indeed on the part of the appointing authority, following the overwhelming decision of this House last Thursday in a vote of 149 against 36. I don't think this matter should have even gone up to the select committee stage. In more decent democracies, the moment this House voted 149 against 36 to send Mr. Linturi home, the decent thing he should have done was to resign. Failure to resign, we would have expected the appointing authority to sack him, Honorable Speaker. Those two have not happened. Honorable Speaker, we are now back here today. We are back here today to continue from where we left last Thursday. Honorable Speaker, I want to persuade my colleague members not to give up, regardless of what the minority of 7 members have decided. Honorable Speaker, against all the available evidence, the minority of 7 members who have decided to let the Cabinet Secretary scot-free, this House must remain firm. This House must remain firm and assert its authority. Honorable Speaker, I dare say that following the vote of last Thursday of 149 against 36, this House will be in its rightful place to resolve not to have any dealings with the Cabinet Secretary Linturi. Honorable Speaker, this House has got the sovereign power on behalf of the people of this country to decide not to recognize Linturi as a Cabinet Secretary in this government. Honorable Speaker, regardless and despite the resolution of the minority of 7, Honorable Speaker, the minority of 7 have actually brought this House to shame, if I may say so. You have brought the authority of this House into disrepute. They have actually made us become a laughingstock in the eyes of the public. And therefore, to remedy that anomaly, Honorable Speaker, I would be actually right. I would be in order to persuade this House to decline, to refuse to recognize Mithika Linturi as Cabinet Secretary from now going forward, and to continue to urge the appointing authority, who is the President, to take the most logical step and sack this Cabinet Secretary, if only to save this country from the kind of ridicule it has been subjected to. With those preliminary remarks, Honorable Speaker, I reject and I oppose. Thank you.
Order, Honorable Wandai. There is nothing to reject. You just make your comments. You are not going to vote anything. I now invite Honorable Osoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a house of debate and procedures. And I dare say, Honorable Speaker, that this is a granary of wisdom, where every profession is actually represented here. We have experienced lawyers, advocates of the High Court. We have doctors. We have accountants. We have bishops. We also have the wannabe men of cloth. Could be I think Honorable Junet qualifies to be a sheikh. So this is a house where people are drawn from different professions and very experienced in different fields. Honorable Speaker, this is also a house, once one debates, must agree that it is a house where the majority will have their way and minority will have their say. When this motion was brought before this House, Honorable Speaker, the majority had their way, as it were then. But the procedures took center stage thereafter. After the majority had their way, the procedures were followed. The minority proposed their names, the majority proposed their names. An ad hoc committee was formed, Honorable Speaker, and they had their own elections, where they elected a chair to chair the ad hoc committee. And the chair of the ad hoc committee, Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Naomi Wako, is a reverend, is a person of great integrity, a person that has served this country in her capacity as a reverend, a person that has served this country as a canon, a person that has served this country as a senator, and a person now is serving this country, Honorable Speaker, as the deputy majority whip, Honorable Speaker. And all the proceedings, Honorable Speaker, were in full glare of the camera. We all watched what was happening. It was basically drama. Everything that we were watching, Honorable Speaker, in the proceedings were actually drama. What we were hearing, Honorable Speaker, is similar to what was actually being shown, or rather presented before, or brought before the matrimonial court the other day. And Honorable Speaker, there is no way a house of competence could have admitted the evidence that was brought. There was nothing watertight as it was being presented, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Wamboka, as much as he tried, of course, in his role as a member of parliament under Article 95 to oversight, Honorable Speaker, he did not manage to raise a strong case, to bring a watertight evidence, to grow his, profile by pushing through a watertight case, Honorable Speaker, to have the Honorable Linturi impeached. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the report by this committee because I believe in them, and as the house of debate, a house that believes in strength, a house that believes in procedures. Honorable Speaker, we proceed. It is done. We are now done with the whole thing, and now we proceed with the other, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable Robert Mbui, 3 minutes. So
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Kenyan farmers were duped into purchasing fake fertilizer through NCPB under the full glare and the watch of the CS for Agriculture. Mr. Speaker, a motion was brought to this House to dismiss that CS, and members of the House voted overwhelmingly to get rid of the CS. Then, Mr. Speaker, a committee of the House was put together to go and confirm the report and the vote of the members of Parliament. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the members that were put in the committee, 7 of them went and turned the verdict of 149 members of Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, for the record, only 4 members gave a dissenting opinion. And Mr. Speaker, for the record, the Honorable T.J. Kajwang, the Honorable Yusuf Farah, the Honorable Catherine Omanyo, and the Honorable Robert Mbui stood with the Kenyan farmers and said enough is enough and the CS must go. Mr. Speaker, the reality is this, that when we went to that committee, Mr. Speaker, the committee, instead of carrying out investigation as was told by this House, the committee went and turned itself into a Supreme Court of Parliament of Kenya, presided over, Mr. Speaker, by the Lady Justice Naomi Wako. And Mr. Speaker, the rest of us became judges. Mr. Speaker, the question we're asking is this: is the committee of the House supposed to operate like a court, or are we supposed to continue operating like a committee of the House?
Honorable Mbui, I did guide you, and you are a member of the committee. I told you you are quasi-judicial. Rules of evidence apply, limitations on hearsay apply, and everything that pertains to proceedings in a judicial court applies. You are quasi-judicial.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are quasi-judicial, but we became a court of law. Mr. Speaker, there was one major issue that we noted, that there were key witnesses that Mr. Speaker was supposed to have been called. The Constitution anticipates that we call witnesses. The standing orders of this House and even the rules of the committee were allowing us to call members to come and give witness evidence. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, two key witnesses, the PS for Agriculture and the COO of one of the companies that is supposedly mentioned in this fake fertilizer scandal, were utterly not called.
Honorable Mbui, as a member of the committee, you are truly being wiser after the event. Honorable John Paul. John Paul, 3 minutes. You better compose your thoughts quickly. Give John Paul the mic. There you are.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support the report from the committee and to commend, Mr. Speaker, their good work which they did within 10 days, Mr. Speaker. It is commendable that within 10 days, Mr. Speaker, the committee was able to gather evidence and to interrogate both the parties, Mr. Speaker. And today, Mr. Speaker, it has come to limelight of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, that the one CS medical Linturi is clean, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I urge members, when the motion such as this, Mr. Speaker, is brought before this House, Mr. Speaker, it is good for any member who is bringing such motion, Mr. Speaker, of impeachment to do due diligence, Mr. Speaker, and gather enough evidence, Mr. Speaker, which can get maybe the minister with the mistake which, Mr. Speaker, they already seen the years. So, Mr. Speaker, this committee consisted of the competent members, Mr. Speaker, who are capable of interrogating the CS, Mr. Speaker, and they were able to bring forth, Mr. Speaker, to this honorable House, Mr. Speaker, that the CS is clean. Mr. Speaker, it should also be noted that when impeachment motion is brought in this House, it should not be brought, Mr. Speaker, with perception that maybe because maybe a person has a bad name or maybe the look of that person, Mr. Speaker, that person maybe qualifies to be impeached. So my advice to the CS Agriculture, Mr. Speaker, is that he should stand firm, do work to the Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, so that the Kenyans can have enough food, Mr. Speaker. The work he is doing currently is doing good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to support this report. Thank you.
Irene Mayaka, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also stand here to express my complete disappointment that 7 honorable members averted the will of so many other members of this House. And Honorable Speaker, I am actually really disappointed on behalf of the farmers of not only Nyamira but the whole of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, Article 153 of our Constitution is very clear that the CS is accountable individually and collectively to the President of this country, and in so doing, Honorable Speaker, it also says that the Honorable CS is stopped from not taking accountability when anything goes wrong in his ministry. Honorable Speaker, the CS cannot run away from the fact that the ultimate responsibility actually stands with him. Honorable Speaker, I watched the proceedings of the committee, and one of the things that really caught my eye is when the CS proudly demonstrated to the committee of the positive things that he has done for that particular ministry. But the same CS refuses to take responsibility when one thing goes wrong in his ministry. Honorable Speaker, if you look at Article 201 of our Constitution, it clearly says that public money shall be spent prudently and responsibly. It does not make sense, therefore, Honorable Speaker, why money that was allocated to one particular part of the department was reallocated to NCPD and therefore used in a manner that was not prudent. I do not understand, therefore, Honorable Speaker, how the Select Committee, the 7 of them, decided that this CS was not culpable of the crimes that he committed. Honorable Speaker, I would also like to state this, that the Article 43 of our Constitution is very clear. It says that every person has a right to free access of food, but not only food, but that food that is actually of good quality. Honorable Speaker, the CS in his admission said that out of the 3 million bags, that only 3,000 bags were actually fake fertilizer, and that they withdrew this from the people. But Honorable Speaker, that is not taking enough responsibility for a fault like that. Because Honorable Speaker, what if this particular...
Your time is up, Honorable Mayaka. Dr. Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on this motion.
You have 3 minutes.
Honorable Speaker, as the chair of the Committee on Agriculture and Livestock Development, I am sure the House knows that you have been making an inquiry on this issue. Honorable Speaker, I understand the feelings of the members. This is the first motion of impeachment that we've had. I was there in the last time, there was none. In this time, there is one. But Honorable Speaker, the law and the Constitution is very clear. And I wish to thank you for invoking, going beyond the provisions of Article 152(9)(a), giving us an opportunity to comment on this motion, even if the business has already been done. Honorable Speaker, as a committee, we have not completed our work. And I want to put it correctly, Honorable Speaker, that the mover of the motion approached me, and I told him the business is not yet done. It would have been prudent to wait until we finish with the report, bring that report to the table of the House, and then the mover would have looked at this report and made a decision whether there is anything that would probably stand the impeachment trial. So, Honorable Speaker, in my very considered opinion, this motion was taken in haste. We should have taken more time so that we consider the report when it is brought before the House. Honorable Speaker, our committee, or my committee, has been looking at the entire scope of the subsidy program, and we have unearthed many issues. But this was done in full glare of the media, and that, I believe, is the reason why the members of this House believe there was something wrong with this particular issue, that Honorable Linturi had committed a crime. Honorable Speaker, I think it would have been good to wait for the report. Finally, Honorable Speaker, as we move forward as a House, we cannot make decisions based on things that we cannot substantiate, things that we cannot fully address and give evidence. I do stand, Honorable Speaker, to support the 7-member and state the fact that we have always made decisions in this House. We have made decisions at the committee level, we have made decisions at the board level, and there is always voting. The number that is more than the other takes the day.
Your time
so it is
up.
not really the numbers. It is basically the decision of the committee. And you have been generous enough to give us an opportunity to comment. Honorable Speaker, the report will be laid on the table of this House, and the House will look at the report and see what has gone on. Because we are not looking at individuals, we are looking at the entire...
Otienda Amolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this, in the majority opinion, has singularly failed Kenyans and must carry a badge of shame on behalf of this House. For the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Speaker, Kenyans must know that the 6 members of the Kenya Kwanza MPs in the team and their surrogate in Jubilee all voted to save the minister. It is only the 4 from Azimio who stood with Kenyan farmers. And so the farmers of Kenya must know who between Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are truly their friends. Mr. Speaker, it is good that Parliament spoke and spoke in a bipartisan manner. So we as a House have indicated, but the committee has failed to respect the House as a whole. In proper democracies, the vote by Parliament in itself should have invited resignation by the minister without even waiting for the committee to do its work. But we are not in a proper democracy under this regime. Mr. Speaker, what now must save farmers is the action by the President. The President can act and reflect the wishes of this House by the stroke of a pen. He does not need this House to resolve that issue. Mr. Speaker, secondly, it must be noted, and some members had questioned the wisdom of Article 152. Article 152 mirrors Article 167 in terms of the procedure for removal of a judge. Only that in that article, the Judicial Service Commission plays the role we played, and the tribunal plays the role that the committee did. It is expected under the Constitution that the committee would be a quasi-judicial committee that will look into the merit of the issue. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the committee, most of its members went with a preconception because they'd already spoken here against that motion. And instead of therefore exercising independence of mind, they went with a fixed thought. Mr. Speaker, we must learn a lesson. Number one, we should not allow the majority leader to sabotage such a motion as he did in this case. Number two, Mr. Speaker, the mover should be the one to suggest the names of those constituting the select committee. And more importantly, number three, Mr. Speaker, we should ensure that the members are knowledgeable, they have integrity, and they are independent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Otienda Amolo. Rindikiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You have 3 minutes.
I like to support the verdict that has been passed by the Select Committee led by their chairman, Madam Wako. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind this House, every year we celebrate what is called Easter. Mr. Speaker, during crucifixion of Jesus, the multitude called for crucifixion of Jesus. And they said, let's release Barnabas. Mr. Speaker, what we are hearing now is people calling for crucifixion of Jesus and saying release Barnabas. Mr. Speaker, we cannot pretend as a House. I am very saddened to hear the Vice Chair of this committee, a man of respect and a mentor, disowning the sittings. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice Chairman sat for that committee for 3 days, including the report lighting, and at no single time did he withdraw from the position of Vice Chairmanship. Mr. Speaker, the decision of the Chair and the decision of the Vice Chair are one and the same. So we cannot play for the public gallery. Mr. Speaker, we cannot dictate terms as what the President of this Republic should do. Mr. Speaker, Mideka Rinturi cannot be sacrificed for doing what is good. Mr. Speaker, Mideka Rinturi did not say these 3 charges be brought against him. Mr. Speaker, the mover, first of all, he totally failed to prove the case himself. The failure of this, the failure of the mover of the motion He brought matters that he could not even himself substantiate. He went ahead to call for evidence support, calling the PS, calling the MD of Care Chemicals. Mr. Speaker, he was looking for evidence. He should have sought for good evidence before proceeding to bring the motion in Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, let's abide by the rules of Parliament. Let's abide by the rules that we have set ourselves. Mr. Speaker, it is a shame to play for the public gallery to sacrifice one person who has a track record of good performance in this country. And Mr. Speaker, we shall not listen to the public. We shall listen to the rules of this Parliament. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Junet Mohammed. Yes. For avoidance of doubt, I ask your leaders, and this happens in every democracy, on certain issues, the leaders have a discretion to tell the Speaker who they think should speak for them on a matter.